Hello and welcome to a very special video. I'm going to talk a bit about gatekeeping, and I'm going to give you this, I'm going to hit you up with this statement real quick. Gatekeeping is not a cure-all. It's not a magic bullet. It won't cure anything. It won't wash your car, and it's definitely not going to clean your house or do your taxes. It is, by its very nature, another word for standards. At least that's what we would have called them in the 90s. And standards are an act of exclusion. They are an exclusionary act. They are an act of sorting in a way that, if you'd prefer to use that, it's been something that's been systematically and determinedly made into a negative, despite the fact it's more about being, in my opinion, being a kindness. If you don't like that, hey, sorry, thanks for checking the video. If you're a bread tuber, go screw yourself. And continuing on from there. Alright, gatekeeping won't fix the problems that we face with several of these hobbies or products or fandoms. I mean that because of multiple reasons. Standards, aka gatekeeping, is a very personal thing. It is you making a determination that this is X is the amount of effort that is required for Y, the activity. And that if someone else is not meeting X, that you don't want to associate with them when you're doing Y. Now, this is a positive thing. It's a good thing. It's something I encourage people to do. Having standards helps you to have the most entertainment, gain the most value, and have the best possible experience you can possibly have, as well as interacting with people who have similar interest, desires, and standards. Now, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily mean to someone because they want to watch Twilight and you want to watch an Arnold, action flick. It's, by its very nature, an exclusive act. You're not going to want to ruin one another's entertainment because you're going to try to lower your standard to watch something you don't want to. In regards, gatekeeping is a good thing in that you are going, these are the things that I value, these are my standards, and I'm not going to interact with people who do not meet those things. And for yourself, that's a positive move to make. The problem becomes is that those standards by themselves are not necessarily going to be picked up and carried by a community, and they're not going to necessarily be carried by a community and enacted in such a way that a company has to respond. For example, if you want a good one for video games, just look at how the Dead by Daylight devs have acted towards their community uprisings and the things they have done over the years. Or if you want one that's a little bit more intimate to hobby, Games Workshop. Games Workshop has tried to impose standards that it wants on its customers, and that hasn't worked out super well. At the same time, its customers have never been able to really unite under any degree of what standards they'd want to impose on the company, up until the point where you have people arguing about the quality of the product being generated by the company and just excusing anything the company does wrong or badly. And this is our problem. So it's a positive act to impose your standards for yourself and for your group, especially if you all agree to it. You don't want to bring in people who are going to come in into your D&D session and take a giant meaty dump on your table. It's going to probably mess up the game and make a few people very uncomfortable and upset. Generally, you just don't want that there. The problem being is that I want people to understand that gatekeeping by its very nature, or standards as we've been calling it, is a long-term act. It is something that you have to do consistently and actively for the rest of the time you are interacting with that thing. You have to maintain that standard for it to have any greater impact. And don't expect that impact necessarily to be taken up by other people, because there's going to be a load of people who, one, don't agree with you, two, who actively dislike your standards because how dare you try to impose anything on my sweet mega corporation princess, or three, just don't want to put the effort in, and they're just there because it's popular. So the thing is, lots of people have presented gatekeeping, and they've presented it as a positive thing to do, as something that's necessary to do, but they've not really talked about the requirements, the duties, the responsibilities, the needs that you have to meet for these things, and that it's not necessarily going to be picked up like a banner for an army by the greater community. You're going to have people, especially if you're familiar with 40K, for example, who will go, oh, you don't like that? Well, I'm going to go buy several boxes of that. Because spite, for some reason. That'll show you I spent money on the product that you don't like. Ha 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 ha. Well, good for you, jackass. There is no ability for you necessarily to impose your standards, have it picked up by the greater community, and then the greater community uniting and then forcing the company to actually respond. I've seen several companies who actually actively go against what their customers want when they do such things. So I want people to understand that just because you decide that you're going to start doing this, and again, please do, that it will fix problems with situations that have been long since out of our hand, out of our control, and effectively aren't going to change. If you don't like 40K today, and I mean like, what is it, 11 for 10th edition? Who cares? New 40K today, you're not going to like it tomorrow, you're not going to like it in a month, you're not going to like it in a year. Stop playing it. It doesn't meet your standards. Take your standards and go to a place where they will have an effect, where you will actually draw some degree of value out of. And I don't mean that to say like you just throw it all in the trash. No, I'm not saying you need to get rid of those things, but you need to be active in going, well, this company is not meeting my values, not meeting my standards. I'm not going to continue to financially support it. And instead, I am going to now actively seek something out that does meet those standards. And on top of it, I can have an impact on. Smaller companies are going to be a lot more perceptive to a community that is like, well, we don't think you're living up to the standards. You need to do better. And they're going to respond more to that because they need the customers more. On the same note, do realize as a company gets bigger, that a lot of times they will start acting a lot like Games Workshop. So please do not do gatekeeping out of spite. Do it for your own self-interest. Do it because it is a positive thing for your hobby, for your time, for your group. And if it has a more positive effect beyond that, fantastic. Don't do it for a little while and then just give up because, oh no, nothing changed, because it was never going to change. I wish a lot of these bigger YouTubers would spend more time talking about this is a long-term thing. And honestly, as things go on, I hope that it does spread, that more people are like, hey, look, there needs to be standards on these things, and people continue to advocate for it. But be aware that a lot of the damage done to several of these big hobbies and these big forms of fandom are not going to be reversed, and they're not going to be changed. And no matter how much you go, well, I don't like the new thing, and that doesn't meet my standards, does not mean that those companies are going to respond or those communities are going to respond in that regard. Just remember, this is a personal thing. that is going to affect yourself and those in your immediate area. It can have a wider effect over time, but it always is going to take time. It took time for a lot of these things to get as bad as they did because people kept buying it. As the standards slipped, they continued buying it because they had passion, because they cared about the thing. And as such, as they watched the thing that they cared about screw over everything that involved their standards, they started to ignore the one thing that they should have done that would have had the most effect when the sickness began, was having standards, by not accepting the slop. And that's been the biggest problem with Warhammer 40k, in my personal opinion. So please do continue doing these things, but just don't expect miracles to happen. Go places where you are going to be appreciated, where you're going to find the most entertainment, and actively participate and let companies know that's what you want. So I know this is a little bit rambly. Hopefully, at least kind of covered some things. I do think gatekeeping, aka standards, is a valuable thing. I just don't think it's a cure-all as it has been at least presented. I'm not saying that these individuals are being dishonest. I just don't think that they're going for the full context. A lot of things require time and effort, and not everyone is willing to do that. So, have a fantastic day, and bye-bye.